Um,
Perfect.
awesome. Hi, Nick.
Hi, Robin.
How are you?
Good, thank you. And you?
Good. I'm really good. And I'm very grateful that you're having this conversation with me because I feel like there's going to be some things you and I talk about that I've not actually heard before. So,
Mhm.
we don't often stop and have these conversations about, we're always in the work together, but we're not often talking about how we got to working together or
Mhm.
what it's been like, when we kind of step outside of it and have a look and see
Yes.
what the work has been like for you. So I'm also curious to have this conversation with you. And my first question is why did you decide to hire me? What was it
Mhm.
that brought you to that position of thinking, you know what, I'll reach out to her?
Yeah, I think so a couple of things. So I think the first piece is probably the, sort of why did I seek out a coach, if you like. And that was really a result of I guess a series of unfortunate events, a series of culminating events that really made me take a step back and realize that after many years of being a mother, a wife, a daughter, a work, a label, if you like, that I didn't really have a sense of my own values and my own purpose.
Mm.
And so there's kind of that pivotal moment of seeking something more out of a coaching, well, more out of myself and understanding more about myself and getting a sense of identity. More specifically, why you, Robin?
Yeah.
I really kind of felt like there was an element of planets aligning. I heard your name several times in my circles, all in a very short period of time, and all other females that were really strong advocates for you and the work that you had done. And so I think, through that, it kind of drove me to this sounds like something that I need, that I would like to do. This sounds like a person that I would like that I'd like to work with.
Mm.
And so I think through just hearing your name multiple times, it really felt like it was sort of, the planets aligning to drive that. But then also when we had our chat, that sort of 30-minute initial consultation, it was that gut feeling of this is it. This is sort of what I want to achieve, and sort of, I guess, where I was going in the I don't know what I want kind of
Mm.
conversation, but really, I guess, having that safety net and that connection with you as part of that consult, that I felt like we could get to whatever the unknown was at
Yeah.
that point in time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting you mentioned about that 30-minute complimentary chat. I tell people I've been doing that for 10 years and I just
Mhm.
won't give that up because it is such a perfect opportunity for the two of us to have a conversation about whether we're a match for a start,
Mhm.
whether our energies match, and if what you're looking for, even this sort of broad idea of what you're looking for, matches up with what I'm offering.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I also appreciate what you're saying about it was two levels for you. You did have coaching in mind by the sounds of it. Like you kind of had an
Mhm.
idea that coaching might be able to be an area. Is that because you'd had coaching before or was coaching brand new to your life?
Yeah, so I'd had professional coaching. So I've been in the corporate world for sort of 17 years. And so I've always had a lot of professional coaching that was very directed in performance, sort of delivering higher or coaching my team members. So I was familiar with, I guess, the concept. I didn't know what it meant to have, I guess, a life coach or a coach that was more holistic around the whole of me. And I think because I had the sense of I didn't know who the whole of me was and the holistic view. That's where I think, particularly that connection in our discussion, that when we connected, it was about talking more broadly, not what is Nicole at work and what is Nicole at home, but
Mm.
who is Nicole, full stop. That piece was really important to me, and I think that kind of plugged that gap. So I was
Mm.
familiar with coaching, but coaching in a very professional, corporate kind of delivery, if you like. And so, yeah, there is that sort of balance of, appreciating everything else that comes into and our beings, our history, and all of that that plays a part. So yes, I think I did have an understanding of what coaching is, sort of coming into it, but not to the extent of what we've delved into.
Yeah, so very much a particular type of coaching, not the kind of
Mm,
coaching that you and I have been doing.
yes, yeah, yeah.
Got it. And you've mentioned it, or you sort of touched on it a couple of times, but if it's okay with you, I'd be curious to hear what was life like before we started working together? You know, what was
Mhm.
going on, and what was life like beforehand?
Yeah, yeah. And I think so, sort of life before coaching, on reflection, I was I was lost in terms of, I didn't know who I was. I was very much attached to the persona that I was at work, the persona I was as a wife or as a mother or as a daughter. Um, all of those personas were tied to being something, but I really didn't know, who was I individually,
Mm.
and what did I want to do. And I think, that kind of those life moments of things happen at work, your children are becoming adults, and that realization of, well, now that those things are, I'm looking at those things in a different way, it really highlighted that sort of that feeling of sense of self, and sort of being lost in terms of what that was.
Yeah.
And I think, really heavily tied into that was a sense of anxiety around perfectionism and being this persona and living up to this brand that I'd felt that I'd created for myself, both personally and professionally. And so, yeah, so I think on reflection, that was, a highly anxious person who was more worried about what I delivered and the outward view than what I was individually, because I didn't know who I was individually. And so then there was this overcompensation of what do I appear as outwardly to
Mm.
compensate for the lack of, I don't know, what I am inwardly. So, I think, that I probably didn't realize it at the time. I just knew I was, I'd say, lost, and looking for something more. But certainly, yeah, I think on reflection, I can see those gaps and those behaviours were driven very much by that fear of not knowing, and compensating for that lack of knowing.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, because I think it's
Mm.
quite vulnerable when we look back and say, this is who I was. We're kind of even
Yes.
exposing ourselves a little bit. And I get a little bit tender when I hear you say that, because I remember that
Yes.
person, and there's lots
Yes.
between you and I that won't go beyond what the conversations
Yes.
that you and I have had. But I can certainly connect with the
Yes.
you that who was who when we first started working together. And you,
Yes.
you've explained that in a very articulate but also generous way. So thank you.
Hmm.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah. No, it's a pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, what is life like now? The word that came up a couple of times was lost, an
Hmm.
identity, and
Hmm.
some other aspects of who you were in order to fit in, and the persona.
Hmm.
You and I have done a lot of work together. I really want to acknowledge
Yes.
that you have, I'll say to you every now and then, you have really sat your bum in that seat. You are in
Yes.
it. And I've been in awe multiple times of your willingness to show up and say, I'm here. I'm willing
Hmm.
to have this conversation, even though it hasn't always been, my sense is, necessarily comfortable. Where,
Yes.
the process and the journey, it's not as if you and I just get together and chin wag.
Yes. 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 And I think it's still a work in progress. And so I think for me, what is life during sort of, post or in the time that we've spent, I have a much better sense of awareness of my own behaviors and my own thoughts in terms of what I'm doing. So I'm recognizing that, is this perfectionism? Is this anxiety kicking in? And taking that step back, or why is this conversation heading the way that it is, and really approaching things, I guess, with curiosity. I think curiosity is one of the big things we sort of worked on, as opposed to making assumptions and then compensating for the assumptions that I've made, approaching things with curiosity and just having that greater sense of awareness, I think, for me. And, there's almost, I think we spoke last time around, I felt this sense of the anxiety has somewhat left. There's times that I wish that it still existed because it drove some performance. But recognizing healthy anxiety in terms of wanting to deliver on things, as opposed to this, I guess, unhealthy anxiety that was taking over sort of, all of my energy and sort of consuming that side of things. So I think that's definitely more balanced. But I think that the bigger thing is just having an awareness of just different conversations and the way that I react to different things, and having a much greater sense of my own values and purpose, and even having the confidence to be able to articulate those values and that purpose outward, which is a significant shift to what I had. Coming to see you, I didn't know what what those values were, and I was quite lost in what that piece was. But now I feel like I can really articulate that to other people, which is quite a significant shift in that time.
Yeah. Yep.
Hmm.
And I've certainly seen you take on that work, and there's been some examples you've shared with me through the time we've worked together around where you've put that in action. It hasn't just been work that you've been doing up here, it's actually showing up in very tangible areas in your life.
Yeah, it absolutely has. And I think that confidence and self-worth in being able to articulate, not only have the confidence in this is who I am and this is, what I bring to the table, but being able to confidently share that in different forums and things like that. So I think that having that self-worth and that awareness of this is who I am, and being confident enough, I guess, to say it is significantly different. Because I think it's one thing to be able to identify it, and for me it was another thing to be able to outwardly say it, and with that confidence and belief that that's who I am, and this is what I bring. Yeah.
So just on that piece of knowing who you are, where does that feeling of feeling lost live within you now? Is it still alive? Or when we talk about it, I remember it, but I'm curious to hear where or what that's like for you now.
Yes, yeah. Well, I have a clearer sense of purpose. I think I've still got those life questions around, why do we exist, and all of those things, which I think will inevitably, why do bad things happen to good people, and all those things. I think that still exists, and I think it still will as life happens.
Yeah.
But my sense of my purpose and what I guess how I contribute to the community and to the people around me, I have a much better sense of that. So am I lost? No, I think I have a better sense of who I am. Am I 100% there? Probably not. And I think it's recognizing that we change through different periods as well. So I don't see this as a kind of one size fits all exercise, that I've done it now so I can tick the box and move on. I think it's that recognition of this is who I am now, this is my purpose right now, and I'm comfortable now to change that if I needed to, which I think has also come with the work, that it's not, I don't have to be tied to, I've landed on these values and this purpose, and therefore I have to do this for the rest of my life. That's not the case. I've got that comfort to be able to say, well, I can shift and change that. And that's okay too.
That is awesome. I love celebrating you. Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. Thanks, Nick. Just really quickly, I'm curious if there's anything that you can say that because of the work that we've done together, is there any tangible benefit that you've noticed either within yourself, and you have been touching on it, but if there's just anything you can pull on to say, this is the tangible benefits that I've seen either inwards, which you've touched on, or outwards in any area of your life that you feel comfortable
Yes.
sharing?
Yeah. I think, from a personal perspective, and this plays out both personally and professionally, but um, taking down the barrier of that perfectionism and being willing to be vulnerable with people, I think, has really changed some of my connections that I have. And so that has been a really important part that's, as I say, has played out both in personal relationships, but also professional relationships with peers, with my direct reports, with sort of managers, etc. So I think, the power of being vulnerable and being open to, I guess, trusting relationships to be able to be vulnerable is a really tangible change for me. And I think even, that's a really key piece. And I think from a professional sort of piece, I have been able to really, I guess, articulate the purpose that I bring to the organisation based on those values, and really, I guess, that's helped me progress my career and what I'm looking at doing, because those things align very closely with the job role and things like that. And I think bringing my whole self to work and not just the deliverables has helped bring that sort of entire picture together. So I guess, the crux of most of that is, being vulnerable to bring your whole self and get that sort of work-life balance and all of those things together. So I think, the for me, it's the sort of being vulnerable, changing the kinds of relationships that I have, being really articulate about what I want out of my work and where I want to go has helped sort of progress that career piece. So yes, I think some really sort of tangible changes over the last couple of months, which is, I think when you start to see that come into fruition, you start to really see the value of some of the work that, like you say, hasn't always been easy to get through.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people talk about how they also notice a flow-on effect outside of work, that, the work that we do, if people like yourself, have a big focus on work, all aspects of yourself are welcome. So that trickle-on effect, and you don't need to go into much detail, but I'm just wondering whether you would say, this trickles out into other relationships outside of work.
Yes, it absolutely does, because I think the conversations we've had around, particular scenarios playing out, and really kind of delving into the, why might that be, and how do you feel about that, and how can we, I guess, look in and not necessarily challenge that, but how can we address it in a different way? Or that curiosity means I can apply those same techniques to other elements that have similar, I guess, context as to what's playing out. If it may be, miscommunication or lack of communication, etc. It is applying sort of similar techniques across, personal and professional relationships. So it has been really, really beneficial.
And that's one of the things I like about coaching is everything's welcome. All relationships are welcome. Whatever's there in your life is what's welcome in the room. My final question, I notice it's getting very dark in my room.
Yes.
Very, I've gone eerily, I've come up really close. My goodness me. My final question, thank you so much for having this conversation with me, Nick. But I'd love to end with, and this is a vulnerable question from my side, and whatever I'm open to your answer. How do you find working with me?
I think if I were to put it in one word, I would say challenging, but it's challenging in a good way. So it's challenging in the way that you really create an environment that that really, I'm going to say forces, but I think forces feels like too strong of a word, but it creates an environment in which I really question, what am I doing? How am I, feeling about things? And so that's not always an easy exercise to go down that pathway of really thinking about what it is that that I'm feeling, etc. So that's challenging. But in saying that, I need that, because I'm very quickly, that's uncomfortable, that hurts, we'll bury that and we'll park that away. And so I think, working with you really helps me to I guess address and understand what are those underlying layers, and peeling back, I guess, that onion of this is what we're seeing, but if we sort of get to the crux of it, what are we doing differently, or what can we do differently to sort of change some of that outcome. So I think that the challenging piece is, it's, you create, I guess, a good pressure to question and be curious about myself, and so it's not always easy, but I certainly walk away with a sense of knowing and understanding. And I think for me, part of that journey has been that understanding the what is the sort of the center of that onion, and understanding those elements. So challenging in a good way.
Thank you. Thank you for using the word challenging, because I've certainly seen you not shy away from that challenge, and always the work is being guided by and going at the pace that of the person that I'm working with. And that energy is often co-created. So I feel you leaning in, and I feel I lean in, and then we're like, oh, this isn't easy work. There is things here, and you continue to step forward into it. So for that, I want to acknowledge you deeply, because it's an absolute privilege and a pleasure to have supported you so far in this journey.
Yes, yeah, thank you, Robin. I think it's definitely been, I wanted to have someone come and tell me this is who you are and this is what you should do, and that would be a nice easy exercise. And but I know on reflection that work, I'm now at that point, and that work has helped me understand far more than just those sort of 2 ticket boxes that I was hoping to get at the beginning.
I remember you saying it'd be so much easier if someone
just tell me who I am.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nicole. I really appreciate us having this conversation.
Yeah, no problem, Robin.
Thank you.